We're going to call this segment the Audio Alley. And what's going to happen is each week we're going to do a little 10-minute audio segment. And I get so many requests, and sometimes it runs hundreds a week. It's wonderful to hear from everybody. But here lately, they all have kind of the same questions. And hopefully some of this will help you. We get a lot of guys and they get all juiced up and say, wow, we want to get one of these things. A mixer. We need a mixer. And what are you going to do with it? Well, we're going to put it in the front of our 1978 IC 3735 or whatever. Well, you have to think about this for a little bit as to what you're actually trying to do. First of all, today, in today's world, most of the transmitters already have equalizers. That's why we have a mixer. A lot of people misunderstand why we have this thing. We only have a mixer really for one reason, and that one reason is equalization, so that you can have bass, treble, or in these cases that you see here, you can have bass, mid, and treble. Different mixers have different EQ systems in it. This particular one is also very cool in that it has parametrics in it, which means in the case of Elise's or Behringer, a lot of them have this now. See, the engineer told us when they designed it that the high was going to be set at 12K. Well, that certainly doesn't do ham radio any good. So we're only going to be able to use the mids. That's at 1K. It's really kind of at the wrong frequency for what we need. And then you have the bass down at 80. Sometimes your transceiver won't do 80 hertz. So you go into using parametric EQ. It's a big word. A lot of people misunderstand it. Here you have 12K, which we're not going to use, but you have a variable mid. And what's good about the variable mids is that you can change the frequencies. You have all of these frequencies. You can change that just like you do your receiver. Most of the time, as you see here, it's going to be set on 2K. The bass is going to be set at 80 hertz, which is fine. And you can either cut plus 15 or you can notch minus 15. So what you have to do is think about what you really need this for, because most transceivers today already have it. But the first thing you have to do is think about this, transmitter bandwidth. It's very, very important. What does your transceiver do? Most of the early transceivers will only do 1.9 or 2.4. It will not do the wider 2.9. And you're going to say, well, I can take a mixer and change that. No, you really can't change the bandwidth. Well, I got a great demo. I hope that you'll be able to hear this okay. I'm going to even turn the camera around so you can see what we're doing here. Going to be talking in the 7800 that's hooked up to a dummy load. And you're going to be listening to the receiver. And here we go. We're going to put this in transmit. And I've got this coming back through the sound system, so you should be able to hear this on Skype okay. We are in a PR40 talking into the transmitter. Now, here's the deal. I'm in the wide transmit filter, which is 2.9. If you have like a 735 a TS440, a TS140, an FT1000. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. This does not mean it's good, bad, indifferent, better, worse, what. It's just the way it is. The transmit filters are in the transmitter, and you cannot change that unless you want to go in and change in filters, and I don't think you want to do that. Here we go. If you have an earlier transmitter and it only has 1.8, 1.9, the Collins, that's what the Collins is, 2.1.
This is what it sounds like. And you're going to say, well, I'm going to just equalize it. Okay. I'm going to put all of the bass that I have. And as I run from plus all the way down to minus on the bass, you hear very little to nothing. And I've got this monstrous PR40 in here. So you see, you would be wasting time and effort to put an equalizer on that transmitter. Well, let's go to the next step.
This is 2.4. This is what most of the transmitters have in them, especially like the 480, the 7200. These are late models, and it's kind of sad that they didn't do a little better with that. And that's not to say it's a bad transmitter, but that's just where they set the filter, and you're going to be having to suffer with that. Here we go again. If I increase the bass, it doesn't make much difference because all of that's rolled off. That filter's rolling off the low end and it's rolling off the high end. Now we're going to go to a transmitter, and there are many, that has a wide filter. Now bring on the PR40. And you see it makes a huge difference as to what's going on with the audio. Now, if you're wanting to do contest work, beautiful.
We're going to go to the mids. We're going to punch up all we can of the highs, and we have a transmitter that's going to cut through and make you sound great in a pile-up. Is it beautiful audio? Of course not. Is it good? Absolutely. For contests, for even nets and places you need to get your transmitter through. But if you're 30 over 9 and you're talking to your friends on 40 meters at night, rag chewing, well, they're not going to want to listen to that. It's hard to listen to. You're going to roll in some low frequencies and make it sound great. Now notice, if I take it up that far, it's a little bit boomy. And I hear a lot of these signals on the air, and please, guys, balance. Balance is so important. Listen to yourself as we are here in another receiver, and balance those lows and highs the way you sound naturally. And when you're 30, 40 over 9, it makes a lot of sense. It works so great. Now I'm going to turn the transmitter off. Again, that transmitter was in the dummy load, and it just allows us to hear things much better. You could use the monitor, but I always like to do it with another receiver and headphones, and it works really good. I hope that demonstrations through Skype is not all what we set out to be. Okay, we'll get things situated back over here. But if you have a transmitter that has wider bandwidth, and you guys and gals want to do something with a mixer, there's not a thing wrong with that. What you want to do first is a mixer for receive. Oh my. And what you do is go to the back of your receiver, your transceiver, and find the accessory plug. And the accessory plug has all kinds of things in it. And I know a lot of guys say, oh, I'm going to have to solder that connector. It's not that bad. You're not going to use George's new soldering iron, I'll tell you that. Well, you can, but it is not going to work very well. In coming weeks, we're going to get into soldering some of those. But you go to that accessory plug,
Then go to your manual. You remember, hey, you get these things with your radio, and most of you take them and you go, oh, okay, never look at it again. Don't do that. There's a lot of things in that manual. One of the pages is this guy. This, by the way, is for a TS2000. And the pinouts for that plug I just showed you are right here. And pin number 3 is audio AF out, AF output. And that's what you're going to take out of the transceiver, bypassing all of its audio, which is not all that great, no matter how much the thing costs or how well it's built. Don't have really great low distortion audio circuits in the equipment today. Come out of that pin. Now go into your mixer. And what you do there is kind of cool. The mixer, it's going to do a lot of things. But first of all, we're going to come out of the accessory plug, and we're going to come into the input, the line input, not a mic input, a line input of the mixer, meaning that it would take a lot of voltage. You're going to have a lot more out of that accessory plug than you would for a microphone. So you go to the line input. You want to turn the pan pot all the way left. We'll get into some of these pan pots and things in a future show, but pan pot allows us to select either the left out or the right out. And what you do there is turn it. I turn mine to the left out, and that puts all of the signal, all of it that's coming into this channel out of the left output. And that goes into the JBL speaker, which has 35-watt amplifiers in them. There's 2 of them. I'm only showing one of them. Now we can bring on the equalization, and you will not believe what you've been missing and receive. And I don't care what the receiver is. From a $15,000 one to a $200 one, from a brand new one to one that's 30 years old. That is where a mixer really shines. And if you're going to do anything at all, do that first. Because there are so many avenues of trouble, meaning RFI. We'll get into some of that later. But I wanted to start this segment with something that was very meaningful. And to me, the receiver is really where it is. And you heard how important it is to select the transmitter bandwidth. Then we can go into selecting different things of what microphones and all the different things that you're going to use. But we'll get into all of there's all kinds of equalization out there. This started the whole thing in 1982. We changed amateur radio. We really did. This was the first equalizer ham radio ever saw. And it was got the cover award for QST in 1982, July. Told you how to build it. I never knew that I was going to get into the ham radio business. I just did it because I thought we needed it. And we did. Well, thousands of them later, you knew what happened. But then Julius came along, W2IHY. He's got a great product. He's a great guy. And this, if you really want to do it, is the way to do it. It's even, I think, better than a mixer. A mixer only has a couple of frequencies that you're going to be able to use because mixers are made for live sound. But look at this baby. It's got 8 bands, and it's all centered around amateur radio. That's the whole deal. It's got noise gate and all. We'll get into some of these later, but that might be a better route to go. And get a small mixer and some of the JBL Control 2P speakers. Now you can have some really decent receive audio. And if your transmitter doesn't have equalization, well, you can do that if you need it. And as you heard, if you got 2.4 filters in it, there you go into selecting microphones, and we're going to get into that later. Something that I need to tell you guys about, my wife told me, she said, you need to talk to this. This is a book that I wrote for the pro industry. And Sarah says, you need to tell Ham Nation guys and gals about this because it's got a lot of information about microphones. It all starts with the microphone. There's a tremendous amount of information. I didn't write it. I just compile it. It's all science. How microphones work, some of the frequency charts, of course, the wonderful, wonderful thing about the Fletcher-Munson curve, how your ears work. And that is just, it's atrocious that we all don't know about Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson. And you need to learn about some of this stuff. And just call the Heil Sound plant. Look up the website and the phone numbers on there. And it's the best $10 you'll spend because it's got a lot of information about microphones and audio in it. And we'll get into more of this each week. We're going to get a little more. But I hope it helps you. Again, email me and we'll make things happen and help you get things better and have more fun with ham radio. That's what it's all about. And that's what this show is about.